During his first 2 seasons in the NWHL, Harrison has been a trailblazer and a pioneer for the LGBTQ rights, and he has helped form, the first ever transgender policy in professional sports to aid both trans men and women in their participation, and he also has been appointed inclusion leader for the NWHL advisory board. So I'm pleased to have with us tonight, Harrison.
Thank you, Amanda, so much for that wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for the New Jersey Devils for having me. Having the opportunity to be here is a huge honor for me, and especially on your Pride Night. And if you would have told me at the beginning of my professional hockey career that I'd be standing here in front of you, celebrating the LGBTQ community within hockey as an out and proud trans man, I'm not sure if I would have believed you. You see, at the beginning of my career with the National Women's Hockey League, I was not only wearing a mask on the ice, but a metaphorical mask as well, hiding my true identity as a trans man because I was scared of what people would think. And today I'm going to share my story with you all on how I overcame my fears and unknowingly made history in my second season playing for the NWHL. So let's get started. So this past season, I came out publicly as the first transgender athlete in professional hockey, and I did this through an ESPN article. And the moment that that article would be released would change my life forever. I was Harrison for the first time to not just my friends and my family, but to everyone. But it wasn't always like this. Prior to last season, I went by a different name, and I used different pronouns. So let me take you back to my journey of self-realization. Let's start from the beginning. So, growing up, hockey was my entire life. I devoted a lot of time to the ice, and I quickly fell in love. I didn't realize at the time, but looking back on my childhood, hockey was very much an escape for me. You see, playing a sport gives you a certain title that's not gendered. You're an athlete, a hockey player. You're not a boy or a girl. And I think I found a lot of comfort in that. From the time period that I was at the rink or at the gym, I could get lost in a genderless world and be free from the stereotypes and gender roles that society burdened me with. But I knew eventually just being free in the sports world wouldn't be enough. Living as a woman was so hard my entire life. I always felt like I was in some ways invisible, like no one could see the real me. No one saw me for the boy or the man that I knew I was. But when I got to college and was able to live for the first time on my own and truly make my own decisions, that's when I knew I was meant to live my life as a man. So I started to come out to my teammates at the university, and they all had my back. They were my second family and really made it easy for me to live authentically, even if it was just in my hockey sphere. So together, my teammates and I, we tried out different masculine names to see which one would fit the best. And I slowly started to distance myself from my given name and go by male pronouns in my inner circle. I was essentially living a double life. I'd be Harrison, the trans man, to my friends, family, and teammates. But I'd be Haley, the gay woman, to the fans, public, and the media. As I gained more confidence asserting myself to more and more people as a trans man, the disconnect with my sporting identity and my identity to the outside world was becoming too great. It was weighing on my mind every time I would hear my name announced at the rink, see it on a roster, or read reports on me riddled with female pronouns. It wasn't me. Something needed to change. And I was desperate to be seen as the man that I knew that I was inside. But unfortunately for somebody who is transgender, you are sometimes faced with the choice of being yourself or doing something that you absolutely love. At least, I thought I had to choose. See, I was stuck at a crossroad where I had to choose to either continue to play the sport that I loved and don the title of professional athlete for the rest of my life, or start living in a body that aligned with who I was inside. Spoiler alert, I chose to keep playing hockey. But this decision was not made lightly, and I thought that I could keep living my life the way that I had been, being myself in one aspect and being someone totally different in another. But the more that I would be misgendered, the less fulfilling my sport would become. And I was forced to do a lot of soul searching. So after a year with the NWHL, I made the decision to let the front office know about my identity and request that they change my name on the roster from Haley to Harrison, and ask that they use male pronouns when referring to me in the press and on the ice. And right off the jump, the league had my back. and they took all the necessary steps and then released my identity for the world to see. Now, when I made the decision to come up publicly, I expected to have some backlash, but I knew that any of those viewpoints would have been out of ignorance, and that really had no impact on me. But what was pleasantly surprising was the amount of support that I actually would receive, and this support was extremely tangible. I was the fan vote of the NWHL All-Star Game, and I was also voted one of the fans' 3 stars of the season. Those moments I will never be able to express what they meant for me as a person to be embraced. And I can only imagine what having a transgender athlete supported and celebrated would mean for any young kid looking in, struggling with acceptance for who they are. Now, being a symbol of hope was not something that I initially set out to be. I was only thinking of myself and what I need to do at the time to be the most authentic me. But what came out of living my truth and being so honest was more than I ever could have imagined. The most rewarding aspect of this past season was not winning a championship or anything to do with the media. It was hearing from other trans individuals, members of the LGBTQ community, parents of LGBTQ kids, and to hear them say that I was helping them deal with their own struggles and providing a source of strength for them. It was unbelievable. I was the person that I needed when I was younger. And hearing from other trans people was so exciting for me. I didn't personally know many, so it was really nice to have something in common right off the bat with otherwise complete strangers. I could just feel the excitement that exuded from them sharing a little bit about their story with me, or sharing something as small as their chosen name with me. See, for most people, a name is just something that's yours. It's part of your identity, it's just who you are. But for somebody that's transgender with a birth name that's either very masculine or very feminine, it can pose as a cage, a constant reminder that you're identified by something that you are not. And when I changed my name, it was one of the most uplifting things. It was a symbol of my freedom and the first step that I took in living my life as the man that I wanted to be. And going on the theme on how important a name is, when you win a championship, you have your name etched onto a trophy. Being a champion is something that nobody can take away from you. But winning for me meant more than just a game or a season. Winning for me meant that Harrison was going to live on in sports forever. And not just the individual Harrison being me, but everything that I stood for as a transgender athlete. A reporter had asked me after the game what was going through my mind after winning. And I said, the thing that I'm thinking about the most is that Harrison Browne is going to be etched onto that trophy. And I'm glad that I really opened the door for somebody else to get their chosen name on that trophy one day. Women's hockey, from the moment that I came out to the moment that I had my name written in silver, was changed. And the sporting community really had to adapt their thinking and acceptance of trans people now that they had one in their world. By coming out and being authentic, and also being so public with my story, I'm helping the fight to have transgender people treated just like any other person. Because frankly, we are just like any other person. There's so much ignorance and fear out there that we can't afford to be silent, to hide. We need to be open and we need to be proud. And I'm so thankful for each and every one of you out there today. Whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or an ally, you're also important in the fight for equal rights. The fight that everyone, no matter their sexual orientation or gender identity, is free to be who they want to be, love who they want to love. You are all necessary in the battle that we fight. And I know that it's hard to stand up for yourself and others. Confrontation is never an easy thing to go through. It's oftentimes uncomfortable. But what comes out of pushing through your comfort zone is a beautiful and rewarding experience. I can tell you that I would never have had the confrontation in my life that I've had if I just simply did what I was told to do by society. If I just followed these imaginary rules that I was a woman and I was meant to end up marrying a man. But I can tell you that I would not truly be living. But it took me a long time to get to this point. I can remember being so angry inside that I had to be different, that I had to go through this. It'd be so much easier if I could just be normal. But what is normal? What does it matter what clothes you wear, who you love, or your hairstyle? I'll let you in on a little secret. It doesn't matter. The only thing that's holding you back from who you're meant to be is you. And the second I stopped worrying about what complete strangers would think if I cut my hair, shopped in the men's section, or whose hand I wanted to hold. I became free. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of you as long as you're a good person and you're true to who you are. We only get one shot at this crazy thing we call life, and there's no better way to live it than as yourself. Each life and story is so unique and important, and I thank each and every one of you for listening to mine, and for also being true to your own. It's more important now than ever. Thank you.
So we have a little bit of time now for a Q&A session. So if anyone has a question that they'd like to ask Harrison, we're going to open the floor up to questions right now. We have a mic coming up, so just raise your hand and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And if not, I have questions. Right over here.
Hey Harrison, at the last Riveters home game, I couldn't help but notice that there was a trans pride flag right behind the Riveters bench. And it was a big flag, and the fan was holding it up almost the entire game, which I would imagine would be exhausting at some point. But I wonder, coming out of the tunnel and, seeing that for the first time, even in your periphery, like what that meant to you to see, because it's such a clear example of the impact you've had and what it means to even just that one person, how much it means to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Seeing a symbol like that, like a trans flag, seeing those colors, looking up while I'm playing the sport that I love, when I didn't always feel that way, when I used to hide behind the mask of Haley, to see somebody out there just in the crowd, just showing their true colors like that, yeah, it was unbelievable. He actually came up to me after the game and he actually gave me that trans flag, so it was a really good interaction with him and it was unbelievable.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Hey Harrison, you've talked, or you did just speak about the confrontation, you used that term, and thinking about taking on the mantle of exposing the NWHL to how you choose to identify, I'm sure has opened the team, yourself, and hockey up to conversations and confrontational conversations. How do you deal with those as we're now celebrating Hockey is for Everyone Month? How do you engage in those conversations and still push through and try to keep it positive?
Yeah, there's really two ways that those conversations will go. Pure ignorance, where somebody doesn't genuinely want to learn, somebody's just berating you with negative comments and they have no interest in opening their opinions and opening their mind. So those people, I just leave by the wayside. But there are some genuine people that as soon as I came out, they didn't understand what I was. They didn't understand, so they just saw the headline that there was a man playing in a women's league. How is this possible? And I had to explain to them that yes, I'm a trans man, I identify as a man, but I'm a pre-transition trans man, so I have no physical advantage over people. So that's really the typical confrontation that I get. But once I explain to them the stuff behind that and exactly what I am, then people start to learn and they start to accept and they say, oh, okay, you just want to be who you are. So dealing with that, I welcome that. I welcome those comments and I welcome those conversations. But there are just some conversations that can't be had.
Hey, Brownie. Just talk about, or if you can, the people that aren't aware of, you did retire after last season. What went into your decision to come back? And I'm sure it had something to do with maybe you felt like your job wasn't done yet in promoting these issues, not issues, but you know what I mean, trying to get your message out and the message for all trans people out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I did retire last season. I wanted to physically transition, and that is against the transgender policy that was put into place last season. So I announced my retirement, but I ultimately came back. It's no secret to anybody that it's been a tough year on the LGBTQ community. We've had a lot of attacks, and as I was getting ready for my surgery, as I was getting ready to finalize everything and disqualify myself from playing in the NWHL, I just felt I had more to give, and I felt that my message was more powerful as an active athlete. So I definitely had some unfinished business, and I still have some unfinished business with creating as much awareness as I can. And I thought the best platform to do it was with the NWHL and to be an active hockey player. So I decided to delay my retirement based on that.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh, there's like one more.
I was curious, 'cause almost right away on your YouTube channel, you came out and kind of in support of Jessica Platt, who's a trans woman playing for the Toronto Furies in the CWHL. And I was wondering, what it meant to you to see another athlete in this sport, specifically women's hockey, because there's been a lot of attention paid to like how inclusive women's hockey is as a community. And to have, another athlete follow a similar path to you, what did that mean to you when you first heard that news?
Yeah, that meant a lot to me. It's no surprise to anybody that women's hockey is a very safe environment for the LGBTQ community, and I'm not sure if I would be standing here in front of you as confident as I am if I played another sport. So it just says a lot about women's hockey, and Jessica actually did reach out to me last year when I first came out, and she told me that she supported me and that she was also transgender. So I had heard we've been in contact for a long time, and she was saying last year that she was thinking about coming out, and I'm glad that she was able to do it on her own terms. I'm glad that the CWHL came forth and extended their support and allowed her to do it on her own time. So that was really important, and I'm glad that I was able to break down any barriers that could have been in her way. I'm glad that I made the path easier for her. See, I talk about I want to have an influence on young kids, and I want them to feel comfortable and grow up in an environment that I necessarily didn't have. But it's really great to see that happen so soon, too, to see the other side of professional hockey, somebody that's close to my age, also take my story and use it for their own confidence. So Jessica Platt, it's great, CWHL, great, and great strides for the sport of hockey, and I hope that it can pass over into the men's side as well.
We have a question in the back over there.
Hi, Harrison. Thank you so much for speaking and telling your story. If you were able to encourage anyone, encourage them to live their truth, to overcome that fear, what would you say to them to motivate them to do that?
Yeah, I think living your truth. It's easier said than done. I obviously spent 23 years trying to build up that confidence to finally be comfortable in my own skin and say, yes, I'm a trans man, and this is how I want to live. But it takes time and patience, and you have to be patient with yourself. You can't be hard on yourself. You have to figure out who you really are, and you don't need to do it for any other person. Whatever you need to do to be happy, you need to do it. And the things that I was scared about was ridicule, people judging me, people throwing me to the side, my family rejecting me. All the things that I was scared of, the majority of it didn't come into fruition. I really embottled it into my mind and let it manifest and let it kind of take over, and these fears just come over my body. But once I let go of those fears and started to live for myself, I became much happier, and really there wasn't a lot to be scared of. So if you're ready, be yourself. That's the only way to live your life. Don't live for anybody else.
We have one last question for you. What is it like playing on a team that's 11-0? Let's see. The Riveters are number 1. What's that like? Yeah.
Well, it's great. Obviously, I played in Buffalo last season, and we did win the championship, but we never really had a winning streak like this before. So it's a new experience for me. I'm actually 12-0 because the last game I played, actually no, I'm 13-0 because the last 2 games I played, I won. So yeah, no, we're riding on a high. We're doing great. It says a lot about the girls in the dressing room. My teammates are amazing, and everybody is allowed to be their authentic self no matter who they are in the dressing room. And I think it does carry a lot onto the ice. We're a very close-knit team, so they support me. I support every single one of my teammates, and it shows the camaraderie and the teamwork. We're kicking ass.